always remember, never pay foreigner price. Now, this is an insight to your viewers. This is an insight to your investors that a lot of people dare not say it out loud. I'm going to make a lot of enemies right here to say this, but I will say it out.
Hey everyone, Darren here. In the past few months, we had Jensen and Amos sharing their tips and insights with the audiences on the Malaysian real estate market. Today, we're also talking about the Malaysian real estate market, but we have decided to switch gear a little bit, having someone from the development and investment side, as we call it the buy side, to share. This brings me to Nicholas Howe from FER Capital. I'm thrilled to have him to talk about how to pick the right property in Malaysia. He's very passionate about educating others on this topic, and I hope you can learn from him for your own exploration. Enjoy. So hey Nicholas, thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, because so to give the audience a bit background, we have a show with Amos. I think we launched about a couple weeks ago, and then it got pretty popular. And then a lot of people told me that hey, they're actually thinking about Malaysia real estate market. And then Amos was like, you're someone that like in the whole market, people know who you are, and you're doing a good job. So I'm pretty happy to have you here. And then because it's not only about learning about Malaysia market, it's about how to be a better investor. So again, thanks for coming in, and then. It's gonna be a blast. Yeah. So for the audience who may not know who you are, would you mind telling the audience about yourself and then the company you work for?
Sure. My name is Nicholas Howe. I'm the head of sales for FAR Capital Sdn Bhd. So for FAR Capital, what we do is that we are actually the biggest buyer right now in Malaysia. Last year, we transacted approximately around 1.8 billion all the way up until this year. So for the past 18 months, we are arguably the biggest private buyer right now in Malaysia. So why we are doing this is because number one, we see a lot of investors, foreigner or Malaysians, what they do is that they invest without really understanding the fundamentals of property investment. So from my experience, out of 100 property, 97 of them will not make you money. It is only like 3 of them that will actually make you money. So our objective, our vision for the company is to actually increase the knowledge of property investment, increase the investors' knowledge so that they can actually make money. So as an investor, the only thing that you want to do is make money, right? So we want to mitigate that people are losing money, right? That's the main objective that we are having.
I see. Yeah, because it's something that like I think when we have a call, I think a month ago, and then that call was really good because it obviously tells like how much you care about this. And then there's one thing you mentioned right away is price, not location. Would you mind elaborate that to the audience? Because it's something that I think when you share some insight about Malaysia market, about how things are, I was kind of shocked that I never heard of that before. So would you mind elaborate that in further?
Right. So I think everyone heard about this particular mantra, right? Calling location. I think it all went all the way until Hong Kong. It has been prevalent in Malaysia. But from research or from data's point of view, when you look at it, right, location actually doesn't play that important on the whole. I'll give you an example, right? KLCC. Majority of the Hong Kong viewers, your Hong Kong viewers, would know where KLCC is, right? They have got the best location. In terms of location-wise, they're the best. You have got your LRT station. You have got your shopping, one of the best shopping malls. You have got grade A offices. You have got hotels. So in terms of location, there's no place primer compared to KLCC. All right, so that is like the financial center of KL, yeah, or the oil and gas center of KL, right? But if you invested in KLCC 12 years ago, right, versus a suburban area called Puchong, right? There's a suburban area in Puchong. If you invested 12 years ago in KLCC, you would not have made any money. In fact, you might have lost money. Compared to you investing in Puchong, the suburban area, you would have easily doubled what you have. Right? So for me personally, it is never about location. It is always about the price that you bought into. So it could be one of the not so prime area like Puchong, but if you have bought it cheap enough, over the long run, the property price has got a higher tendency to increase or double, versus paying a premium price for a premium location and it will just be stagnant. So for me, for the viewers, for everyone else that is listening, location is important, but not as important as understanding the price that you're paying, not as important as understanding the median price that you're paying. Right, so from that point of view, so just to give a context to your viewers, right, when they are coming to Malaysia, the first place that they're looking at will always be KLCC. So that is how the agents has framed them. That is how the real estate agency in Malaysia has brought them over. But what they do not understand is that in the KLCC's median price, anything you pay above 1,500 ringgit, you will not make money. Right? So you understand median price, first and foremost, you understand the median of that area, and then you understand whether you're buying below median or above median. Anything that you buy below median, you have got a higher chance of making money. And if you're buying above median, that's where you've got a higher chance of losing money. Right?
So that's something that's interesting, because that's the point you mentioned before over the call, and I was kind of shocked. I never thought that way. So in that regard, what are something that the audience can do to mitigate that? Because it sounds like a very gray area. It's like there are assets that you have to buy at certain price points, but then that is a gray area because not many people can afford it, for example, in this case, right? How do we mitigate it?
So how do I mitigate it is that I'm going to be sharing my screen, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
There are actually a few criteria for your investors or for your viewers, right? So there are actually a few criteria that they need to be aware of, right? I'm gonna share with you. This is actually quite a simple investment criteria. There's only 5. So let me share my screen.
That's cool.
I can't share screen, bro.
It's okay. So what I can do is that, like, you can tell me which slide, and then I can put that on our videos. So like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is actually slide number 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is going to be? All right. So slide number 5, you can actually see there's a 5 investment criteria for your particular viewers. Yeah. So what happens is this. Number 1, if you are looking at buying into Malaysia, the first thing you need to look into is the international expat community. So as a Hong Kong buyer, the first thing you need to understand is that you must look into the expat community, right? That's where the Hong Kong people are. That's where they spend their days there. That's where they buy their property. That's where they send their kids to school. That's where they buy their grocery. You need to have this kind of support system in place. For first things first, you need to get that support system in place for you to have a very meaningful stay in Malaysia. Right? There's no point for you buying in a place, even though that might be great, but you've got no support system. So always focus on the international expat community. These people has been in Malaysia for the past 10-15 years. They know for a fact that whether the property that they bought is actually a good one or a bad one. Right? Number 2, always focus on the international schools. Now, I'm gonna take a stab into KLCC, right? There's a reason why the rich people in Malaysia, right, or the rich people who are the expats don't particularly choose KLCC if they've got a family, is because the lack of international schools in KLCC, right? So if you are single, the likelihood of you choosing KLCC is quite high because you want to stay there. There's got the nightlife there, etc., etc. But if you've got a family, you've got a wife, 2 kids, and a dog, right? You don't want to choose KLCC because there's a lack of international schools. Right? You need to drive 2 hours to and fro, approximately 2 hours to send your kids to school and go back to your office, right? So always focus on international schools. You need to have that if you're looking to stay here long term, right? The third one is actually the commercial vibrancy and also the first class infrastructure. You don't want to stay in a place where there's not even a proper mall, right? So you've got always look for something with a proper mall, with a proper grocer that you can do your shopping in, and your first class infrastructure, meaning your highways, right? So all these things contribute to a better living standard if you're planning to stay here or you're planning to invest here. Because you see, once you buy into Malaysia, the dream or the target is to actually rent it out to expats, right? The expats will always look into these criteria first and foremost. So the chances of you getting an expat tenant is much higher if you follow the criteria, right? So number 4, you always have a plan B, right? So I know it's going to be very, very hard for your viewers to identify the median price because it takes local knowledge or local capabilities to identify the median price of the area, and then you use the property to benchmark against the median price of the area. So you need the local knowledge, right? So it's actually quite rather simple if it's for your own viewers. You always have a plan B. Now, what plan B means is this. A lot of people, agents, when they approach your viewers, right, they will say that, hey, you're buying for own stay. It doesn't matter. So long as you like it, buy. You can afford, buy. That is not a good idea or a good strategy. The reason why is because what if you want to move back to Hong Kong? After 5 to 10 years, what if you want to move back, right? What if you want to move to Singapore, right? People's needs change, people's wants change, right? So having a plan B makes sure that you, number one, first and foremost, you don't lose money, right? So always look for properties that will give you a 4% rental yield. So now, why do I say that? Is that if you look at the median price of KLCC and you take any properties in KLCC, take the rental, the average rental on that area, divide it up by your purchase price, you can actually see, you can roughly know whether you're hitting the 4% or not. So always focus on the properties that will give you the 4% rental yield. If you can hit the 4% rental yield, you're relatively safe, you're at least on median. Right? So number 5, always remember, never pay foreigner price. Now, this is an insight to your viewers. This is an insight to your investors that a lot of people dare not say it out loud. I'm going to make a lot of enemies right here to say this, but I will say it out. A lot of times, these projects that are brought over to Hong Kong are all the mai jing for, meaning we cannot sell. Malaysians don't want to buy. I've exhausted every opportunity, every avenue to sell to Malaysians. I cannot sell. Now, I bring it to Hong Kong, hopefully, willingly taking in people who are most likely getting suckered into this. So they always have a foreigner price that they sell it to Hong Kong. But the reason why is because even about the Malaysian price, this price does not make sense to Malaysians. Even the Malaysians novo rich. Malaysians are rich. If you look at the Mont Kiara price versus the KLCC price, they are actually more or less the same. Look at TTDI, Bangsa, they are more or less the same. But the Malaysians will buy in Mont Kiara, the Malaysians will buy in Bangsa, will buy in TTDI, and they will not buy overpriced, hyped up stuff, right? Predominantly in KLCC. So those are the things that they're actually pushing it out to foreigners, the leftovers that nobody wants. So focus on these 5 criteria. You will most likely never make the wrong purchase. Focus on these 5 criteria. That's my advice to your buyers. Right.
No, that's really good, because there's a couple of things you mentioned. There's something that because again, I think I told you before, I used to be a buy side, and then we always understand that if some deals are pushed to foreigners from across the board, like across the ocean or something, there's a really big foreigner price, and then it's something that I hope that our product is to bridge it. Is that saying that, okay, you can find direct channel, find direct expert in the location instead of paying that premium, because there's no point. And then that 1 or 2% means a lot when it comes to real estate investing. So go back a little bit, and obviously, by the way, that was really good insight, because something that it's not only applied to Malaysia, it's applied to many different cities. Is that, for example, you said before, the tenant might be different. Maybe just because you're single, or like me, or living in the city, but if you think about put yourself in the shoes on someone who's a family, they might need something else. So I want to go back a little bit on the 4th point, right? When you say 4% rent, does that mean the gross, or you mean net?
Could be gross, right?
Understand.
So
okay.
Looking at 4% rental yield, taking a gross, I'm not very familiar with the interest rate in Hong Kong, but in Malaysia right now it's actually less than 3%. The effective rate is 3.5, 3.4. You're getting a 4% basically means that you're covering everything that you have. So taking a 4% is actually not a bad deal, especially if you're a foreigner buying something here, right? So for me, hitting that 4% is good enough for the foreigners. And just to add on to your just now to your point, right? Saying that looking at agents or looking at experts and whatnot, right? My suggestion to your viewers: don't believe any expert, any agent, anyone. Just follow the 5 criteria. You can make your own decision, really. So just like that, yeah, you have just broken the code of investing in Malaysia, right? So you don't have to believe me, you don't have to believe in whoever. So long as you follow this criteria and say that, hey, do I have an expat community here? Hey, do I have an international school here? Hey, do I have a first-class infrastructure? My commercial vibrancy is there. Can I get a 4%? Calculate for me. Can I get a 4%? Hey, and actually, am I paying a foreigner price here? What is everybody paying around here? With these 5 criteria, you will never go wrong when investing in property as a foreigner.
I see. So, because like I'm sure you're aware, this show, this whole series is about for foreigners to learn about different markets, and in this case, is the Malaysia properties, right? So I have a two-part question because a lot of people start rely on real estate platforms, right? And then I know that in Malaysia, there's iProperty, Property Group, brings. Like are they useful, and what's something that they like people can rely on, and then same time is that what's something that they're not good at that you need that 5 criteria before to compensate. And another question with that is that with these platforms or other ways, what are some ways that you suggest them to assess and search for the right properties?
Okay, so I'm gonna say tackle the first question first, right? The platform, what's the pros and cons, right? I think each and every platform has got their own strengths. Use bricks. Personally, I use bricks. I use bricks to identify the products that are transacted prices. Bricks always has the transacted prices, right? I use bricks, and then I go over to iProperty or Property Guru to actually double check on the listing price. So the reason why is because of this. There's also a practice in Malaysia. Again, I'm gonna be making a lot of enemies here, right? Listing price is 1 million ringgit. Meaning I'm asking from you, Darren, I'm selling my property to you at 1 million ringgit. When I go over to bricks and I look at the transacted price, right, it becomes 2 million ringgit. So it's illogical, right? I'm telling you, hey Darren, do you want to buy my property for 1 million ringgit? Then you tell me, no lah Nick, I want to buy it for 2 million. Can I? It doesn't make sense, right? But that's what's happening in Malaysia, in some part of Malaysia, some part of KL, some part of Sarawak, some part of the projects, right? Due to the fact that they want to mark up the transacted price. It's a fake transaction. So they use this transaction to show to investors and say, look, I've got a transacted price of 2 million. But in actual fact, the actual asking price is only 1 million ringgit. So for me, to your viewers, what I would suggest is that use bricks to identify the transacted price. Once you identify which one, then go over to iProperty or Property Guru to identify those particular projects. Give those agents a call to check, double check, and triple check the numbers. Use that one. That's for buying properties, right? As for rental in itself, in iProperty and Property Guru, there's a lot of rental being asked. So the rental, let's say for example, is 3,000 ringgit, right? Transacted rental might be a bit lower. Technically, from my experience, majority of them are a bit lower. Call them to ask, not as a rentee, but as an owner. Call the agents to ask them, hey, I'm an owner of this property. Can you tell me how much realistically can you rent it out? The agents will tell you the truth. Oh, actually, you can only rent it out for 2,500. But I'll put 3,000 just in case they negotiate, then we'll lower it down, right? So use those platforms wisely. Use those platforms to identify the prices, the actual prices. I'm teaching you the inside trick of how to use it. Use it wisely. That's how I do. The second question is actually about, apologies, I missed the second question.
Oh, so something that I think you mentioned before is that what suggestions that you have for the audience to assess and search for the right properties?
All right, look at, again, go back to the 5 criteria. Once you identify the 5 criteria, right, you identify the area. Search via Property Guru or iProperty or in any way. Search for those properties and identify those. For me, my suggestion to your viewers is that use those search engines. You will find any and all type of properties over there. It's just that the caveat to it is that how do you then identify, is this property good or bad? Alright, so that's the only caveat. So for me, I use Property Guru and iProperty to search for properties. It is just that from there onwards, how do I then identify whether this one is good? Please bear in mind or remember the first rule, a hard and fast rule, is that 97% of the properties in Malaysia won't make money. Right? So you need to, your audience needs to use the 5 criteria again to assess or identify that 3% of the properties. Right?
I see. Yeah. So there's something that you mentioned before this call. It's called the property grading template from you. Would you mind telling the audience like how to use it? Because I think you're generous enough to tell us that, hey, there's a place where you can download a link in the show notes and everything. Like, would you mind elaborate what this is for, and then how people can use it?
Right, so I'm going to use this grading system that we have. Far Capital has used this grading system. We have got grade A, B, C, D, and E. Right? Grade 97% of them, the properties 97% would be grade C, grade D, and grade E. Now, what does it mean is that grade Grade E, yeah? I'm gonna go for grade E. Grade E is where you actually lose more than 100,000. Right? If you purchase a property today, when you want to sell 5 years later down the road, so you will be losing more than 100,000. All right, so that's one. Number two, in terms of cash flow, right, negative will be more than 600 ringgit all the way to 2,000 ringgit. Every month you're losing money up until 2,000 ringgit, and if you sell, you lose more than 100,000 ringgit. Right? So that's a huge loss, right? So that's grade E. So there's also grade D, right? Where you've got no profit even if you sell, or you lost 50,000 ringgit when you sell. Negative every month is up until 500 ringgit. So that's grade D, right? Grade C is that you don't lose, you don't win when you sell. Your cash flow is break even every month, meaning your rental is just enough to cover your installment plus your maintenance fee. So that's grade C. 97% of the properties in Malaysia will fall into grade C, grade D, and grade E, right? So what we are looking for in Far Capital, there's only grade B and grade A, and which I hope that from your audiences as well, they're going to be using this template to look for properties as well. So grade B is where upon completion, when you sell it, there's minimum 10% upside, right? Cash flow is positive cash flow by 100 to 200 ringgit. All right. Grade A is where when you exit the property, when you sell the property, you're making 20%, while cash flow will be positive more than 300 ringgit. So we are focusing on grade A and grade B only. So how do you then access capital appreciation and cash flow, right? Again, you go back to the original template, the criteria that we have, the 5 criteria. So as a foreign investor, there's a lot of properties that you can't be buying. Anything that is below 1 million ringgit in Kuala Lumpur, you can't buy. Anything below 2 million ringgit in Selangor, you can't buy. So you have to buy above 2 million, you have to buy above 1 million. So you're even more limited in terms of property that you're purchasing. Understand this grading, use this grading, and then you use those criteria. If you use those criteria, you're most likely to hit either a grade B or a grade C. Will you be able to hit a grade A? The answer is yes, but you're looking like a diamond in the rough. The whole of KL and Selangor, mind you, I can only think of one project in the past 2 to 3 years. Only one project that is suitable for foreign investors.
Wow. That's a very, very crazy then. It's very hard to find one, but I'm sure someone like you have the groundwork, have the potential, have all the knowledge and everything to get that kind of opportunities, because it is hard for us. I mean, like if today, for example, if I'm not from Hong Kong, where would I know where to invest? And so same as the logic is too. So it's obviously someone on the ground be a lot easiher. So on that regard, and obviously by the way,
let me add on a bit. Apologies for this. Let me add on a bit.
Fine.
Even for Malaysians as well, I think even in Malaysia, a lot of people will be investing in the wrong projects. I know of one project that when they started selling, they were selling it for 800 to 900,000 ringgit. Landed property, right? And everybody snapped it up on first day. For the first month, first launch, everything sold out. They bought it for 800,000 ringgit. Yeah. Upon completion, I believe that was 2 to 3 years ago, if I remember correctly, it became a grade E. Negative every month was 2,500 to 3,000 ringgit. While if they sell now, they are looking at 200,000 easily, 200,000 to 300,000 loss. So is that a good investment? The answer is, I would say the answer is no in terms of my criteria. So what happened is that they actually went against everything the criteria stand for. Is there commercial vibrancy? The answer is no. Is there actually international schools? No. Is there expat community? No. So a lot of times Malaysians tend to buy properties thinking that they're investors, but once they put into the grading system, once they put into criteria, it becomes totally very, very clear to the investor that they will lose money. So, but there's a caveat to it. The criteria for local investors and criteria for foreign investors will be different. Yeah. So just FYI.
I see. Okay. Well, I mean, the local one, I'm sure we can do a part 2 in the future, because there's so many gems, there's so many questions that we're not even halfway yet. So obviously, on behalf of the audience, thanks so much for teaching us how to do it, because this means a lot. And then, so, like obviously right now, the COVID-19, like the whole world is, have gained impact for it. So I just want to know, right, with the COVID-19 and at this moment in time, where do you think we are in the cycle of real estate market? And then what kind of area and type of investments should the overseas investor consider more?
Okay, you will have to go over to, this will be slide number 4.
Okay.
So at slide number 4, you can actually see the recession in 2009 and what is currently happening in 2020. So I'm bragging. The reason why I'm bragging is because Malaysia navigated COVID-19 perfectly. I say that our government did a fantastic job containing COVID-19. They did a fantastic job in the stimulus package so that our economy, even though it's going through a recession, we will come back out faster, we will come back out stronger. Now, if you look at number 1, right, the statutory reserve for the banks, meaning the cash that they're saving, right, is at 1%, while in 2020 we have got more cash, right? OPR at that particular time is at 2%, while right now is at this one was done quite some time ago, is at 2.5%. We have actually reduced the rate even further, right? In 2009, over 30 billion stimulus was actually announced, while this year, due to COVID-19, we announced over 250 billion stimulus packages. In 2009, that was during the financial crisis, right? There's no moratorium, so everybody still has to pay their loan. While in 2020, there's automatic loan moratorium, which for 6 months we don't have to pay for our loan, meaning we have got cash in hand. So that actually saved a lot of people from defaulting in their loan. So what happened after 2009, right? So this is actually what happened. I'm gonna go all the so in terms of COVID and in terms of the financial crisis, right? What actually happened is that it takes a lot of other dominoes in the market to fall before a property bull run happens. So for Far Capital, right, we take this opportunity, COVID-19, to actually buy a lot of properties. The reason why is because we see in the next 12 to 24 months, we will have a property bull run. Property bull run in Malaysia typically will happen after 4 dominoes fall. And what happens is that the property prices tend to double. Right, so I'm gonna go on to slide number 7. Slide number 7 is what I call the 4 horsemen.
Actually, wait. Would you mind? I'm so sorry to stop a little bit. But then for the SRR OPR, what do they mean? For the
SRR is actually the SRR is actually the reserve that the banks will need to have.
I see.
Meaning in 2009, what happens that they've got lesser cash, more subject to external shocks or pressure. While right now we have got a better banking system. We have got a stronger bank, right? OPR is our overnight policy rate, where that is where our interest rate is benchmarked against.
I see. Okay, so that's good then.
All right. So in 2009, what happens that it is actually at 2%. In 2020, apologies for the 2.5. You have to change it. I'll be changing it to 2. We're actually the lowest since Merdeka, since our Independence Day. This year, our OPR is the lowest. So in terms of buying property, you have got the lowest interest rate, meaning your repayment every month is actually much lower. Hence the reason why a lot of people, if they see the opportunity, this is the year that they will buy.
I see. So go back to 4 horsemen, right? That's interesting. So, okay, would you mind elaborating the 4 horsemen slide a bit more?
So what happens is that if you look at historical data, right, each time there's a property bull run. The property bull run in Malaysia happened in 2010 all the way up until 2013. That's where the property prices double. You know, you need to queue up to buy property, right? Before that happened, there's actually 4 triggers, or the 4 horsemen that we call them, right? The first one is actually the OPR cut. OPR cut means the interest rate being cut. So the government at that particular time cut the OPR rate. Very similar to what is currently happening in 2020. Right? So number 2, they made it very easy to buy properties. At that particular time, in 2009, it was something called a DIBS, Developer Interest Bearing Scheme. Meaning, during construction, you don't have to pay anything. You only start paying upon completion of the property. Right? Give you a context, in Malaysia, if you buy a property, during construction, you need to service your loan. You need to pay a certain amount for the interest, right? At that particular time, the developer pay for your interest. You only pay full amount upon completion, right? This year and last year, 2019, the government came up with HOC, which is called the Home Ownership Campaign, right? Which is to ease people, especially Malaysians, to actually buy property, right? The third one is the mega infrastructure launch. Every time the government started a mega infrastructure, and that in 2009 as well, where all the highways are being built, you see this happening. Right now, we're actually seeing it the same. You've got your LRTs, you've got your LRTs being built, your MRT2, you've got your HSR, you've got your ECRL being built this year, and those are the money that is being poured into our infrastructure. The last one that is the key catalyst to a stock market, to a property bull run, is actually the stock market bull run. So what happens that Malaysians, I'm not sure about Hong Kong, right? Malaysians tend to gamble more on the stock market, right? They make a lot of money from the stock market. The profit from there, they buy property. So if you look into right now, if you look into Malaysian stock market, right, especially the glove counters, everybody doubled and tripled. I'll give you an example. Supermax, a glove maker, 4th biggest in Malaysia, right, went from 150 to all the way up to 15 ringgit. Meaning 100,000 invested there in a short period of 4 months became 100,000 invested, it became 1 million. So you see that there's a crazy stock market bull run happening this year. So when will the property bull run happen? It will happen in the next 12 to 24 months. That is our prediction.
I see. No, I think Hong Kong have a similar kind of mindset, because a lot of people here, like, they play stock because they don't have enough money yet, and once they have enough money, they go to the real estate market. So the trend is very similar, and I think that it's not only for Hong Kong. Hong Kong is one of the biggest stock markets kind of in the world trading, but it is very similar on that regard. And by the way, like, what do you have kind of explain to the audience is very useful. It's something that, like, I'm sure, like, even for myself, actually, like, just by reading through your slides, I learned so much from it. So thank you so much on that too. So, like I said before, right, because I talked to Amos and other people that from Malaysia as a guest, we can go on hours and hours, and I think that is very, very good insight, and I'm sure people will reach out to you to talk more about it. And there's just only a couple more questions that I have. And then, for example, right, what other tips do you have to summarize everything for the audience, because to take away from this? Because I'm sure audience have a lot of questions, a lot of ideas, what to do next. Do you have anything that you want to kind of encapsulate and kind of have something that remind the audience what to do about it?
Right. So for your audience, right, if they're buying property, there's a few things you need to do. Of course, the 5 criteria, right? You also need to look into the affordability of the market. So I'll bring you all the way until slide 12. So slide 12 is actually where the median household income by state. So I thank you for your question asking, if I've got money, should I be investing in KL or should I be investing in Johor? Same price, 1 million ringgit, yeah. If you look at Kuala Lumpur, right, in 2019, their median household income is actually at 10,000 ringgit, above 10,000 ringgit. So to pay for a 1 million ringgit condo, for them, it is actually quite reasonable, achievable. But if you go all the way down to Johor, then you can actually see that their income level is actually hovering at 6,000 ringgit. So your viewers and myself and yourself must agree, right? If you're earning 6,000 ringgit, you cannot pay 5,000 ringgit for your installment, right? There's left you 1,000, you cannot eat. You have to pay for your food, you have to pay for your internet and whatnot, right? Let's be honest, you cannot survive with that. But so hence, where I'm coming from is that you need to understand what's the median income of each state, and then to see whether the property that you're buying, can it be sustained by the local market. So going back to the fourth criteria, if anything were to happen, if you want to move to Singapore, if you want to move back to Hong Kong, right, can you actually rent it out? So there's only so many expats you can rent it out, right? You need to make sure that, if expats fail, can you actually rent it out to the local market? Which, of course, logically speaking, there's a bigger pool of market, right? So focus on those things. Always focus on the 5 criteria. Always focus on this particular household income, and you'd be quite safe. The prediction that we are having, right, to sum it all up, that will be in page 10. You will look at interest rate. We are actually having the lowest interest rate right now as of today, the lowest interest rate for the past since our Independence Day, right? We're expecting one more round to be cut. All right, anything that you buy, net price, yeah. Anything that you buy that is below 600,000 with a 4% rental yield would be the best performer. So your SPA could be 1 million ringgit, but try to get something with a 40% discount if you could, right? All properties in Malaysia will be under pressure. Always buy new. More infrastructure is coming. So I'm just giving you the 4 horsemen, right? Focus on the infrastructure, focus on where the infrastructure is, when is it being completed, and you'll see the bull run coming. Right, MRO, basically what it says, that this page 11, MRO is basically saying that multiple rental options. Don't just focus on the expat tenant. Of course, having the expat tenants is great, but also focus on the local market as well. That's where the median income for each state is happening. You're gonna see a lot of developers under pressure, and that's awesome. That's nice for your investors. Identify this kind of projects. Make sure that these developers have got the capability to finish building it, and then you're gonna get a good deal. The last one is actually, myself, we're gonna get a lot of people hating us for sharing all this information. But I guess from that point of view is that your viewers and your investors, so long as they use the five criteria, right, they will not lose money. Yeah, the chances of.
Yeah. That was great, because like I know that a lot of people in the real estate sector, they try really hard to sometimes like please everyone, to try to not say too much unless it's like off the record. But I believe that I think it's time to really democratize and tell people more about these things, because otherwise the industry will never improve and progress further, Right. So I really appreciate what you're doing here. I really do. And it's what are something that you and your firm have been working on recently? Because right now with COVID-19, and I'm sure you guys are buying more and more properties. What other things are you guys working on at the moment?
We are actually working on buying properties. To be fair, right now the deals are coming in fast. They are good deals. We are always on the lookout for good properties. So long as they meet our grading our criteria, we will be buying it. We are currently just focusing on buying right now, to be honest. Because if you look at the market, right, the lowest OPR, I don't think they're going to go any lower. It can only go up from this year onwards, and this is probably the best time for foreign investors to actually buy something in Malaysia. So for us, we are actively hunting. Our predominant focus right now is to buy as much as we can. So we are not focusing on any other things besides buying right now.
I see.
So thank you to COVID-19 in the sense that it actually allowed developers to drop, giving them more pressure and allowing them to drop the prices even further. So from my firm, for my clients, they are buying things that are up to 30 to 40% discount. And for your investors, right, I'm gonna share this. We are buying something that is actually in the middle of Mont Kiara, which is an expat hub. You've got the Koreans, the Japanese, the Americans, the Europeans, the Hong Kong, but all of them are staying there. And you're buying something that will actually make you money, at least 500 ringgit per month in terms of cash flow. But of course, those are only for my investors, right?
No, I get it. No, I really think that we should do more of these, because there's so many questions I have, but I will reserve the next time, because there are questions, for example, right? I was thinking about the culture of what's going on. What is the wealth, for example? I know a lot of Malaysia as a country is getting a lot wealthier. What's going to happen? What's your prediction in years from now? And then we can reserve for next time, because there's so many things. And obviously, I'm sure the audience will ask you more questions. So what are ways that you suggest the audience reach out to you, through emails or LinkedIn, or is there a way to talk to you more about this kind of stuff?
I think they can send me an email. They can also WhatsApp me. I am faster in WhatsApp. They can also add me on Facebook. So I will be sharing. I will be most active on Facebook and also on WhatsApp. I will check my mail once a day, so do expect some delays. But if you want a fast response, you want to understand more about the brand, just WhatsApp me. Okay. I'll pass you my number, I'll pass you my email, and also my Facebook.
Yeah, so I'll have everything in the show notes, and then for sure the slides that you have offered, and the property grading template as well, to make sure everyone knows where they can find them. And I just want to say, because this is such a 30 minutes, I don't think it's really enough, but thanks so much for your time. And then I'm really looking forward for round 2. And then I really appreciate the time that you have and the thoughts to come into preparing everything that we have.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And then talking until next time then. Thank you.
All right.
Good day. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. What do you think of this episode? Please let us know in the comment below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep in touch with us for upcoming videos. But before we go, I want to give a big shout out to Patina Design Lab. They're the one who help us in making our brand, art direction, as well as these videos. They are a strategic design consultancy firm to help businesses with a wide range of design services, from industrial design, branding, graphic design, art direction, content creation, and many more. They are a very talented bunch, and I urge you to check out their website for their work. That's all for today, and see you next time. Cheers.